Everybody, welcome back to JaysAndKays. So in today's video, I've got another Casio World Time mod for you. We're going to be working on a couple of Casio AE1200s. The two you see in front of you are a little bit different than what you would find in the factory. Usually both of these watches would have that analog clock on the top left, the world map on the right, and the main time display on the bottom. So the internals and the masking on these have been swapped out. But generally speaking, the mod will pretty much be the same. You're just going to have to find those right parts. But as with all my videos, I will put all the parts listed below. And if you're able to find those, then you'll be able to do this project. So what we're going to do today is take our Casio AE1200 here on the right and convert it to a full negative display, as you see with the gold version. Then we're going to try on these JaysAndKays 18mm to 22mm strap adapters on both watches and see how this olive drab strap goes with the two. Okay, so I've only got one of these straps at the moment, so we're going to have to kind of swap them here one at a time. This is an Uncle Seiko GL831 rubber strap in OD green with a 22mm lug width. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. As we already mentioned, this Casio in gold is already done, so we will be putting that on the adapters and the strap later on in the video. Let's go ahead and get to converting this watch into a full negative display. So you are going to need some Goo Gone for this and some Q-tips. I tried to use two different types of Q-tips for this. We have the regular Q-tips that most of us are familiar with on the left, and we have these finer pointed Q-tips on the right. The finer ones might be a little bit harder to find, but you can try the link below. So to get started, let's go ahead and open up this case back. I like to remove my bracelets to give myself a little more room to work with. You'll take your spring bar tool here, kind of pry inward on that spring bar, and the bracelet should come off. Okay, we've got our case back here. You're going to need to take a small screwdriver. Got 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oh, and I forgot to do a wrist check for you guys. Let me just get these screws off. So what I'm wearing today is a Seiko, actually. This is a Seiko. It's got a little bit of soap here. I was just washing dishes. This is a Seiko Presage SSA 397 automatic watch on a aftermarket Timex MK1 olive drab leather strap and a Reassembly 16mm butterfly clasp in polished silver. And as we go to the face of this watch, what's really unique here, as with many of the Presage lines, is it has a really nice textured dial. The inspirational themes for this watch was to mimic a Zen garden. And so the watch face in the green, you'll kind of see has a grainy pattern to it. Almost looks like fine moss. So they're trying to create that fine moss that you would find in a Zen garden. And then if you could look at the indices, which are kind of raised, I'm on my cell phone here, so I can't really zoom in that well. But the indices have a like stone grain texture to them to kind of simulate stones that would be on the path in the Zen gardens. I don't know if you can kind of capture that there, but really beautiful watch. You have your day of the month indicator down at the 6 o'clock position there. And then your power reserve on the right. And this can be hand winding. And I think it just goes really well with this olive drab strap. So one of my favorite pieces to wear. All right, so let's get these screws off. Okay, take your case back, set that to the side. All right, in here we'll lift up on this O-ring. It's been a while since I've actually opened up this watch, so I might need to relubricate that. Go ahead and go to your 6 o'clock or your 12 o'clock position. Look for that little notch in the middle, and then gently lift up on that to get the watch module out. Go ahead and take that module out, take your case back right away, and go ahead and cover that up. That'll just prevent dust from entering into that space. All right, so we've got our watch module here. There are going to be several pins to remove. So we're going to flip this upside down. Actually, you can keep it right side up. One here on the right side, two here at the 12 o'clock position, one on the left, and two more at the bottom. Just going to gently pry those off. You'll notice the display start to dim a little bit when you do that, and that's because you're separating the battery from the display. Go ahead and carefully turn this over like so. Actually, keep it upright like this, and separate this out. Okay, once you separate that out, not necessary, but I like to do this. Look for these two circles here at the top, and go to the topmost one and just draw a small circle around that. And that's the hole for your spring. The spring is what allows the watch module to interact with the speaker, which is actually here on the case back. That's actually a speaker if you didn't know. So when that spring interacts with this speaker and you trigger a function on the watch that produces a sound, like let's say an alarm or pressing the stopwatch features, that spring bridges a connection and allows that sound to be made possible. So just make sure your spring is still in there. You can kind of see me tapping up on it. Okay, and we made that Sharpie mark there just in case the spring pops out, you know which one of the many holes here on the top you put that spring back in. So put that there to the side. Okay, we're going to flip this guy over. Okay, I'm going to move to something non-metal here and just gently lift up on this circuit board. Okay, take that and set that to the side. You might have this white piece that kind of hangs out. That's okay to separate that as well. Okay, then you're going to turn this over, flip this around, and again I'm going to take my Sharpie here, and you'll notice that you have this little half moon here. You see there's this curve here, and it's not over here. So what I like to do is I just like to kind of trace that half moon with the Sharpie, because that'll be another landmark. You probably don't have to do this, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to do it. So that way when I say that word half moon, you kind of have a visual cue what I'm referring to. Okay, we're going to tap this down gently. This opaque piece will come out. Set that off to the side. Go ahead and pull on the half moon towards the right side, and from the underside, use another finger to pry up on the display, and it should pop out just like that. Okay, a couple more pieces. Go ahead and push down here and down here as well. You're going to take this part, get that out, and you're going to have these two other pieces that pop out. One is longer than the other. Very important pieces. Make sure you keep track of them and just keep those to the side. Okay, and I'm going to zoom out here so you can kind of see what our watch looks like disassembled. Okay, so we are going to work just with the watch module for now. So I'm going to set all these other pieces to the side here. Okay, now if we take a look at our watch module, I want you to look at my fingers here to the left of that, and that's going to provide us with an example of what we're doing here. So right now you're kind of looking at the display of the watch like this. Okay, if I was to turn this display like this, you'll notice that I'm holding three fingers on the left, and that represents the three layers that you're kind of looking at on the right side. Okay. Turn it like this, turn it like this. This would be our topmost layer, which is the one with the 3 dots facing you. So what we're trying to do is you're going to look at this top layer, and this is actually called a polarized film. So from the factory, you do have a polarized film on this display. What we want to do is go ahead and take a pin. We're going to put a pin between the top polarized film and the middle layer, so the pin will go right there. We're going to create a small wedge. Once we got that wedge, we're going to take our guitar pick, completely separate out the factory polarized film, throw that away. We're going to go ahead and take some Goo Gone, clean up the glue that was holding on to that polarized film on top. Make sure we have a nice clean surface below. Then we're going to take a brand new polarized film, put it back over, but we're going to orient it 90 degrees to the right. So rather than put it down exactly how we found it, we're going to put it down, turn it 90 degrees, and then stick it onto this middle portion. By turning it 90 degrees, you're going to change the background from this typical white background to a black background, and the numerals that were usually black before now become that whitish yellow. Hence, by turning the film 90 degrees, you're creating that negative display. So hopefully that makes sense for you. Okay, let's go ahead and get our pin. Now to find this middle layer, to know where to put your pin in, how do you know you're putting it in here and not putting it in between these two layers? You want to drag the pin over the face of that polarized film gently and wait for the pin to drop. You're going to hear the pin drop onto that middle layer, and that's how you know where you are. Okay, so we're going to take our pin here, drag it over, and listen for a click. You don't have to put any pressure. Just drag it. Okay, there it is. Okay, one more time. Okay, once you hear that click, you're going to go ahead and aim the pin away from your fingers. And gently push down on the pin. Try to keep the pin as parallel to the display as you can, and you just want to create an initial air bubble. Just like that. Okay, you see how I made a very small air bubble there? Very small air bubble with that pin, just enough to get it lifted up. Okay. Okay, once you create that air bubble, we'll put the pin down. Go ahead and take your guitar pick, dip it in a little bit of Goo Gone. So I have a bowl here filled with a little bit of Goo Gone. This is what the bottle looks like. Okay, dip one of those edges into the Goo Gone, stick it right where you made that air bubble, and then gently rock it back and forth. Okay, and what you're going to do is slowly separate that top polarized film from the middle layer. Now you notice we were dragging that pin over the face of the watch, and some people might be worried that you're scratching the polarized film, and you are, but that's completely fine because we're removing this film anyways and throwing it away and replacing it with a new one. Okay, I like to work from one side and then drag it across to the other. Just go nice and slow. That Goo Gone that you dip the guitar pick in will kind of work its way and loosen up that glue nicely. Okay, and there you go. So that's our factory polarized film. So let me kind of show you what happens if I put this film back in the way I took it off. You see how we still have that normal white background? But if I turn it 90 degrees, take a look at what happens to the display. The display gets pure black. So that's what we're doing. We're going to want a polarized film 90 degrees to the right or to the left. Same thing if I turn this to the left, it gets black. Okay, so that's the effect that you're doing it. The reason why we can't use this factory film anymore is because the glue gets separated and it becomes messy. So this is just a one-time use type of thing. So we'll set that to the side. Save that piece though, especially if it's in one piece, because we're going to use that to trace our new polarizing film. Let me show you the glue now that you're left with here. See that display? It's all dirty. So we need to get this completely clean till it looks like that on the back. Okay, nice and clean. So let the Goo Gone do its work. I've done this mod, many times already, and what I've found out is it really helps to be patient. So rather than just putting in Goo Gone and starting to scrub away, it saves you a lot of time. It saves you a lot of Goo Gone and a lot of Q-tips to just put on a layer of Goo Gone and let it sit for a full 10 minutes. Even longer if possible. The bottle of the Goo Gone says 5 to 10 minutes for projects that have glue that's a little bit harder to remove, which I think this qualifies for. So what I recommend you do is take your regular Q-tip here, okay, and just like a mop, you're going to stick this in, just the tip, into the Goo Gone, get it nice and saturated, and then you're going to lightly coat the entire surface just by tapping it with Goo Gone. Okay, that's all I'm doing, and just applying a nice, generous amount of this Goo Gone all over the watch. Don't forget the corners as well. Okay, so that's pretty good. We get that nice and coated. So what I'm going to do is let that sit for a full 10 minutes, and we'll come back in. And the longer you let it sit, the easier it is to scrub that glue off. All right, so it's been about 10 minutes. What we're going to do now is move to our pointed Q-tip. These have less fluff on them, less cotton, but that means you can put a little bit more pressure, and that'll help to remove that glue off. So you're going to saturate your Q-tip there. Make sure the tip is nice and moist. And what you're going to do is focus on keeping the Q-tip, at an angle, kind of like this. Try to minimize putting direct pressure like this, because at some point the cotton will wear off and you're just kind of grinding this hard part of the Q-tip into the display, which is probably not good. So try to keep it as parallel as you can and do some circular strokes, always making sure that the tip is saturated in that Goo Gone. All right, so we're just going to work from one part of the display, the top part. You'll notice that the Goo Gone starts to clump that glue together very well, which will hopefully make it a little bit easier to remove. And you'll see that I'm also working over a towel right now. It's probably best to work over a microfiber cloth. So we'll loosen up this glue. Once you get a few chunks kind of collected together, go ahead and take your microfiber cloth and wipe in one direction. Okay, you'll notice it'll probably still be dirty, so we're going to repeat, but we're going to go back to our thick Q-tip, regular size Q-tip. Coat that whole layer in Goo Gone, just so we can keep a moist surface and reduce friction. Okay, no need to wait 10 minutes because we already did. And we'll work on that glue again. Okay, try to push the glue to one side. Once you've done that, go ahead and wipe off again. Okay, back to our regular Q-tip. Coat the display. Go to our pointed Q-tip. We're going to switch the other side, so that way we have a clean side. And you're just going to keep doing this over and over again. So I'm going to pause the video here because this can take a couple minutes. Sometimes it can take as long as 20, 30 minutes. Just be very patient. Don't rush this. You just want to do a good job. You really want to turn this display in the light. And you can kind of see here that when I turn this in the light, lots of glue still there. You see it, all those glue streak marks. So turn it in the light every now and then. You want to get this as clean as possible. You'll also start to listen to your Q-tip. The Q-tip will start to make a squeaky sound when it's hitting that clean display, which kind of tells you you're towards the end. So I'll check back with you guys once I'm done. All right, so I've been doing this for about 5 minutes. Looks a little bit better. One thing I want to emphasize, make sure you focus on the edges as well. So The edges are a little bit stubborn to get the glue out, so don't forget those. And the reason you want this surface completely clean is just like when you're putting on an adhesive or like a sticker, the cleaner the surface, the better your polarized film will stick onto that display, and the less chance you're going to have of air getting underneath it and creating air bubbles, because air bubbles really show up well on the negative display. Okay, so don't forget those edges. And then try to use a different part of your towel every now and then so that you're not wiping old glue back onto the display. Okay, so we're going to do this for another 5 minutes and I'll check back in. Okay, it's been about another 10 minutes, so I want you to kind of listen here. So obviously you can hear that squeaking. So it's telling you that you've pretty much removed most of the glue and you're right down to the bare layer. Okay, so keep on cleaning it. Okay, try to wipe inside to outside, especially at those edges. Get that nice and clean. Once your display is dry, go ahead and again lift it up. Nice if you have some direct light in front of you, and you see how that looks a lot better than we did before? But really turn it all the way around because we want to look for any residual glue that might be there, especially around your edges. So right now this looks pretty good actually. Let's see, dry it up a little bit here. Okay, not too bad. All right, so once you get your display completely clean of that glue, we're going to grab our polarized film. At this point, I would recommend you wash your hands because that Goo Gone can get a little bit oily on your fingers, and that can be quite easy to transfer that to the new film. So I've already washed my hands. We're going to grab our film now. I've included a link below for polarizing film. This is called 0 degree linear polarizing film. Basically the exact same film that we removed from the factory watch. You can buy this in two versions. You can buy this in a adhesive version or a non-adhesive version. I've never used the non-adhesive. This is the adhesive version, and the adhesive version basically comes in three. So again, if we turn this over on its side, looking at my fingers like this, there are 3 layers to this film, but different. You're going to have your polarizing film in the middle, you're going to have a protective layer on top, and a protective layer below. We want to remove both protective layers from the top and below, and then apply that film onto the display that we just cleaned up, oriented properly to get that negative effect. Now, with the film, it's important to know that it does matter which side you're on. So, for example, if I was to cut this film and put it on this side versus this side, it can create a completely different effect. So how do you know which side is the right side? Well, if you put the film over the display and you just turn it in the light, look for really trippy rainbow, purplish, greenish, bluish colors as you're rotating the film. If you see those colors, like you see right here, there we go, crazy colors going on, that is the wrong side. You should not be seeing that when you rotate. Flip it over. Now if we rotate it this way, you'll notice I go from really pitch black to really bright and clear. Pitch black, clear. You are on the right side if you see that. Okay, so now we know that we're on the right side. How do I know which way to cut it? Do I cut it this way, this way, this way? That's a good question. So what you want to do is you want to take your display, make sure your display is oriented correctly relative to you. So you should be seeing the 12 o'clock here and the 6 o'clock here. Very easy to do with this particular watch because we have these 3 dots, which tells us that's the 12 o'clock. If you don't have those 3 dots, it's going to be a little bit hard to figure out which is the top and which is the bottom. So you're just going to need to know that when you disassemble. But for this piece, we know that that's the 12. Take your polarizing film, grab a Sharpie. Okay, and what we're going to do is rotate this film till we get that pitch black background. So that's pretty black there. Let's move this over here. Really black. Gets a little bit lighter when I do it that way. Really black, really black. Really dark black. And if I go past that, it's a little bit lighter. I go past that, it's a little bit lighter. So I know I need to cut it in this orientation because we want it the blackest possible. Once you find the right orientation, go ahead and take your polarizing film, lay that directly on top of the display. Take your Sharpie and you're going to trace around the display. Another option to do is you can take your polarizing film and put that directly on top and trace that. But I'm going to go ahead and trace right on top of my main display. So take your Sharpie, and you really want to draw this exact. You don't want to make it too short, and you don't want to make it too large. So a fine tip Sharpie is probably going to be better than a regular Sharpie. Okay, once you get your square, you're going to go ahead and write some kind of character that tells you, like I like to write the letter A. Or maybe not A. I like to write, let's do Q. Q's a little bit better. Got a big Q here in the top right corner. Q is a little asymmetric. So what we're doing here is, remember we have 3 layers right now to this polarizing film. I need to remember which is my top layer and which is my bottom layer. All right, so what I do is on the top layer I write a Q, which tells me that that's the right layer to be on top of, and I also choose the letter Q rather than, let's say, the letter A, because Q is asymmetric. That tells me that the Q needs to be faced in some kind of orientation that I can properly read it, so that way I know my film is in the right orientation. Okay, so for example, if I was to remove this and start cutting this out, and I start cutting it out and I see that my Q is sideways, I'm like, oh, that's not right. This Q should be upright. So I should be in this orientation. So that's the value of putting that little letter there on the top. Okay, once that's there, you can remove your display from underneath. Take a fine pair of scissors. A lot better if you have a fine pair rather than kitchen scissors. If you don't, that's fine. But you want to cut this to the point that you don't see any of the Sharpie marks. Okay, so I like to cut it loosely first, just to get it out of the rest of the film there. Okay, and then go ahead and trim this up. And so you can see here that the fine scissors just make it really easy to follow the Sharpie marks. Okay, so we got our general film there. Go ahead and trim up any remaining Sharpie marks. The reason is, if this film that we're cutting is even just a millimeter or 2 larger than the display that we trace it over, when we reassemble the watch, the polarizing film will be too large, and it will be pinched by the other parts that we use to reassemble the watch. And when you pinch this filter, it's going to allow air bubbles to come in from those pinched sides, and then the polarizing effect will have some blemishes on it. So that's pretty good. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and just clean up this area really quick. All right, we're going to go back to our display here. Okay, taking a clean Q-tip, and I'm just going to put 1 drop of alcohol square onto the display. Kind of like when you prep a surface before you put a sticker on, you put some alcohol, and that's kind of what we're doing here. Okay, there we go. All right. I'm going to also grab some painter's tape here, because painter's tape doesn't leave any residue. Get a small sliver of that and kind of hold on to that. Okay. Take a clean part of your towel, wipe that alcohol off. Alcohol evaporates pretty quickly, so it shouldn't be too difficult to do. Okay, once the alcohol is off, just turn it around the light, make sure we don't have any wet spots. Go ahead and take your painter's tape, and to get any dust that might be on there, put that directly over the display. Okay, leave that on. Take your polarizing film, take a look at your Sharpie mark. Make sure the Sharpie mark is shiny in the light. If I was on the wrong side and I looked at that letter Q, you see how it's not shiny? Tells me I'm on the wrong side. But on this side, it's shiny. You can see the Sharpie marks on that. So I'm on the right side here. Okay, we're now going to basically peel the bottom layer. So right now you're looking at it like this. If I turn it over, we're peeling this back layer here. That's going to be removed, and that's going to expose the adhesive layer underneath. Okay, so we will remove that carefully off. Try not to touch the film with your fingers so we don't have any fingerprints. Turn that to the side 90 degrees like that. Go to your display, remove your tape. Okay, minimize touching that display. Okay, take your polarizing film, drag it all the way to one side as far as you can go. And then once you reach the top, roll it over from one end to the other. Okay, apply nice firm pressure inside to outside. Kind of work off any air bubbles that might be in there. Okay, take another Q-tip here, clean one. Okay, and now what we're doing is we have two layers now left on this polarizing film. We're going to peel off the top layer now to expose that middle layer. So there's that protective film that comes off. Okay, save this protective film and check for any air bubbles. So I can already see one here at the top left. I'm going to put my film back over it and take my Q-tip and try to push out that air bubble. The reason I'm not putting my Q-tip directly onto the polarizing film is it's a very sensitive film, and even something as soft as the Q-tip can create abrasive scratch marks. And as you know, with like black cars, small scratches show up a lot easier than they do on lighter colors. So that's why we're using this protective plastic to create a barrier. Okay, it looks pretty good. Go ahead and take your display, turn it in the light like you've done before. That will expose any air bubbles that might be left in there. So I got one more over here. I'm going to put my plastic down over that air bubble and push that out. Now, if you are using the non-adhesive version of this polarizing film, please comment below how it works out for you. I've been trying to find non-adhesive for a while because it's quite tricky to lay this film down and get it right. A lot of times air bubbles pop up and it's quite hard to remove the air bubble. And what ends up happening is you have to actually remove this polarizing film and cut another one again. Once you stick it onto the display and you peel it off, the glue becomes exposed. So it's not nice to look at. So I think with a non-adhesive, it would just make it a whole lot simpler because you just cut it, you lay it on, and reassemble the watch. But I've not been able to find that yet. It's always been sold out. So let me know in the comments below how that looks for you. All right. Perfect. You'll notice these little indices pop up every now and then, these gold yellowish characters. That's completely fine. Go ahead and ignore that. They'll disappear. And we're going to be resetting our display anyways after we reassemble the watch, and that will clear out all those characters. And one more air bubble over here. And be patient with this. This is probably the hardest part, is laying on this polarizing film. So these are usually sold in 8.5 by 11 sheets. So if you need to do it again, just carefully remove it and recut it again. All right, so that looks good to me. We can now go ahead and throw away our protective layers. Okay. And all right, so now we're all set. You just need to remember which is your 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. So the best way to do that is just kind of look at it in the light for those 3 circles. Okay, so I can see those 3 circles right here at the top. Okay, if you can't find those 3 circles, you can take your protective layer that you just threw out, put it over one top of the screen, gently push with your Q-tip, and that pressure should expose those 3 circles to let you know that that's the 12 o'clock. So now we're going to go to reassembly of the watch. So 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock. We're going to start with this piece first. Okay, remember our Sharpie mark for the half moon, that's our 6 o'clock. Okay, we're going to turn this to the left. Turn this to the left 90 degrees. We're going to take this. We're going to insert the top portion first underneath these 2 clips. So there's a clip here and a clip here. Insert display underneath those. The bottom part of the display will rest over the bottom clip with the half moon. That's completely fine. Go ahead and with this finger, you're going to pull back on that half moon spring, and then with the other finger, you're going to apply downward pressure to push that bottom half of the display underneath the spring. Try not to use your bare fingers if possible. Try to use a clean cloth to minimize fingerprints. Okay, so kind of like that. Okay, so right now this white piece of plastic is adding some pressure to the screen. So if our polarizing film was cut too large, it's going to start pushing up on that polarizing film and start creating areas for air to be air bubbles to enter. All right, so we're going to turn it back this way. Half moon is here at the bottom. Okay, go ahead and take this and grab another piece of painter's tape. It's just an extra precaution. That polarizing film is just so delicate, you know, and I would hate to scratch it at this point and redo this all over again. So I'm going to cover that up, flip this over. Okay, again, 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock. We're now going to grab these 2 pieces, take the long piece, put it at the top. You see how one's longer than the other? Longer goes to the top, shorter goes to the bottom. Take the long piece, turn it on its side, and insert it into its little trough there at the top. Might be a little hard to see on camera, but it will be very easy to see in person. Gently tap it down, so that way it sits flush inside the plastic white case. Okay, next you're going to take this piece here. Now you'll notice that this piece has 2 teeth here at the bottom that are pretty big and 2 teeth at the top which are pretty small. So the 2 big teeth should be down towards the bottom. Okay. Now, if you turn it to its side, you'll notice that the teeth are projecting here to the right, but it's flat on the left. You want the teeth projecting towards you, towards your face. So I'm going to turn it this way and then lay it down here on top of my plastic part, just like that. Go ahead and take this part. You should have these 4 black pieces facing you and insert it this way. It doesn't matter if this white tooth is here on the left or if it's on the right. Either way is fine. Okay, next we're going to take our circuit board here. Make sure this black piece is facing you. Okay, flip it over so the black piece is facing the other 4 black pieces here. And then look for these 2 contacts. These 2 contacts should be at the 6 o'clock position. Go ahead and carefully set this down. Make sure you're not using metal here. You'll notice a white piece of plastic pop up here in a hole in the board and another white piece of plastic pop up here. Just push this down flat, so that's completely normal. Okay, we're going to go to our other portion over here. Make sure these two contacts are at the bottom because they're going to match with the two contacts over here. Make sure you have your spring here at the top. There's the spring. I'm going to take it out so you know what it looks like. So if this falls out, this is what you're going to look for. You'll notice that the spring is skinny over here on one end and it's thick on the other. That gets inserted into the hole. So kind of like that. Go to that Sharpie hole that you marked and insert your spring. And make sure that's flush. Go ahead and keep that part down. Take this part, flip it over, and push down, lift up, and go ahead and reconnect our contacts that we pried off at the very beginning. Okay, as you're pushing the contacts back, it should be making a clicking sound. Okay, looks pretty good. Turn this over. Now we're going to do a hard reset on this. Take a paper clip. Make sure one end is longer than the other. Look for this hole marked AC, right over there. The longer end of the paper clip is going to go into that hole. The shorter end is going to touch a piece of metal here on the top. So long end of the paper clip goes into the hole for the AC, and then touch another piece of metal. Hold it there for a second or two, and let go. Turn the watch over, remove our painter's tape, and you'll see the watch come to life. You got one more tiny air bubble there. There we go. Do another hard reset here because I put a little bit of pressure on that. Okay, there's our negative display. And it's working nice and crisp. Okay, now we're going to go back to our watch case over here. Okay, turn your watch case like this. Turn the module like that. Okay, lift up on the case back. Take your air blaster. Dump that masking out and give a couple blasts of air here to get any residual dust that might be in there. Set that down. Take your masking, blast that also, get any dust. Set that down. Make sure you're setting it down correctly in the right orientation. Take your watch module, give it a little blast. Okay, and set that down inside as well. Okay, go ahead and turn it over to make sure that everything lines up properly. Make sure that the world time here is at the top and that the 3 yellow subdials here at the top as well. Okay, we've got to sit this module now down all the way into the housing. So what you're going to do is take your metal tool here. You'll notice that there is a thin piece of metal that runs here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, that piece of metal needs to be pushed inward like this while applying a little bit of pressure with your finger. And then you'll notice this whole module fall down a little bit into the case. So push, push in, push in, push in. Completely normal. That allows our pushers, our buttons on the side, to properly interact with the watch module. If you don't do that, then you're going to have a hard time activating things like mode, alarm, and stopwatch and all that stuff. All right, we're going to go to our O-ring here. Now, I've already oiled this off camera. Turn your O-ring in the light. It should glisten a little bit like mine. If it doesn't glisten, that means it's dry, and in that case, you need to lubricate this. And you want to use 100% silicone oil. Don't use anything like mineral oil or any other substitute because those can eat plastic and rubber parts like this. But 100% silicone oil will work. Okay, if you look at the O-ring, you notice there's a little projection here at the top that you don't find here at the bottom. That's your 12 o'clock mark. So go to your watch case here. Look for that little notch here at the top as well. And that tells you to line up your O-ring there. And then gently tap down on the O-ring to make sure it sits in its trough. Okay, take your case back, orient it in this way, set that down, push, hold the two together, turn the watch over, and press all the buttons. So we're going to start with the bottom left first. That should be switching to our mode, so that's working. Listen for the sound that tells you that the spring is properly inserted. Okay, let's go to stopwatch here. Go to the bottom right. That's working. Top left, push and hold. That's working. And then our backlight, top right. Really cool effect here with the negative display. So you're going to get a black background with the orange characters there. You can see the triple dials at the top as well. Okay, turn this back over. Flip it like this. Take your 4 screws. Loosely put those back in. Okay, now we're going to loosely screw these down. Okay, hold the case back in place. Look at the seam between the case back and the case. Turn it around. Make sure that the O-ring is not popping out. If you see it popping out, undo the screws and reset the O-ring. Once your O-ring is in place, go ahead and fully tighten. But don't tighten too hard because the resin threads will strip with the screw. Okay. All right, we're in the home stretch here. Almost there. Okay, we're going to take our watch now. Let's move on to our JaysAndKays lug or strap adapters here. So here are the strap adapters from JaysAndKays. I've actually have a separate video on this, so I'm not going to go into too much review about it. But basically, these are made out of metal. They come with the spring bars already here. It comes with an 18mm spring bar on the left, which goes into the watch, and a 22mm spring bar on the right, which goes to your strap. Okay, so watch my other video if you want more information about the JaysAndKays adapter. We're going to flip this over. Okay, we're going to rest the 18mm spring bar directly over the lugs like this. I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure with your finger. Okay, and then what you'll do is insert one end of the spring bar into one of the holes first. So we're going to insert this end first. The other end will rest directly on top of the lug. Go ahead and push inward on that quick release lever. Okay, and set that in. You should hear a click, and then give it a jiggle and a tug to make sure it's really in there. Repeat for the other side as well. Perfect. All set. Okay, go ahead and remove these spring bars. Okay, just pry inward on any end of the spring bar. Kind of like that. Okay, we're going to go to our Uncle Seiko strap here. Okay, we're going to push this through. Now you need to use standard spring bars for this. The Uncle Seiko comes with Fat Boy spring bars, which kind of look like this. So you'll notice that spring bar on the left is what comes with the Uncle Seiko strap, and the one on the right is just a standard spring bar. You notice that this one is much thicker because it's made for a Seiko watch. It's made for the drilled out lugged holes of a Seiko watch. But the holes on the adapters here are much smaller, so that fat spring bar will not fit into those tiny holes here for the adapters. So you need to use a standard spring bar kit. And you can buy spare spring bars very, very cheap on Amazon. I think it's like $5 or $6 for a whole box of many of them in different sizes. So take your standard spring bar, put it through the strap like that. Okay. Insert one end here at the bottom into the hole. Rest the other end of the spring bar on top like that. Take your spring bar tool, pry inward, and then use your index finger and your thumb to guide that other spring bar into its hole. And then you should hear a click, give a small pull and a tug and a jiggle. Make sure it's really in there. Repeat for the other side. There we go. And we're going to flip this over and let's take a look at our work. All right. So that looks really cool. Look at that. So we have this bead blasted silver buckle in metal that comes with the Uncle Seiko watch. Just goes really, really well. This particular shade of OD green is not too deep a color. It's not a forest green like you sometimes find with military green colors. So it just really goes with this metal case. And the yellow subdials, I think, pick up the yellow indices really well. It just adds a very military vibe, I think, to the whole piece. Really, really cool looking. There's the underside for you. Nice looking piece. I'll go ahead and put this on. This is the short version of the Uncle Seiko strap, by the way. It's sold in a long version and a short version. So for my 6 3/4 inch wrist, this is about how much leftover strap I have when I put it on. So not a whole lot left. So I think this might be the right size if you have a similar size wrist as mine. So let's give you guys a wrist shot here. Really, really cool. And much better feel. You know, the OD green on the strap is just some very stealth military vibe. And by converting this to a negative display, you just contribute to that theme as well. Really, really cool. All right, let's do a backlight shot here. Pretty happy with that. All right, let's go ahead and transfer this over to our gold Casio, which is the one I'm actually really excited for. So to do that, take your spring bar tool, push inward on that quick release lever, okay, and lift up, and it'll come out nice and easy. Okay. All right, before we put it on the watch, I want to switch out the buckle for the black buckle. Now you can purchase the black buckle as a $6 option from Uncle Seiko. It's also bead blasted and also made out of metal. So this is what it looks like. Comes with the spring bar and the tongue. It's a really quality piece. And you get the Uncle Seiko logo there on the inside as well. Okay, go to your buckle here. You're going to pry inward and remove that. Remove the spring bar, remove the tongue. Okay, take this piece, separate that out. Okay, go ahead and take your spring bar, insert it through halfway. Take your tongue, insert it like so. Make sure that the tip of that tongue is tip up towards your face, and then you're going to push it all the way down like so. Push the spring bar the rest of the way through. Take your buckle, make sure that the logo is facing you. Insert one end of the spring bar into one of the holes, and then push that other end of the spring bar. I might need to use my tool on this. Turn this over. Okay, listen for a click, give it a tug. All set to go. Take your watch. Okay, turn the strap over. And just like before, Okay, give it a small tug there. Repeat for the other side. There we go. And let's take a look. Really cool. This is probably my favorite pairing with this strap. Got that black buckle that really matches the JaysAndKays adapter really well. And then that blacked out screen just goes so well with the green on the strap. And then this case, this, they call this gold from Casio, but this, I would say this is more of a bronze or like a desert tan, coyote tan type of shade. So much better shade, I think, than an actual really bright gold. So almost like brass. So it just goes so well with this OD green strap. There's the back of it. All right, give you guys a wrist shot. Yeah, just such a cool combo. One of my favorites. It's almost like the, what I really like here too is the shade of those indices is kind of like gold. Goldish tan colored on the indices. They really match the color of the case very, very well. Okay, give you guys a back. This one's kind of hard to pick up in the light, so try one more shot here. Yeah, for some reason I can't get this one to focus. There you go. You can kind of see it. It's very bright in person, but for some reason I can't get the angle right. Show you what it looks like. But yeah. So anyways, guys, that'll do it for today's video. Again, quite a lengthy mod to do. We'll take a few parts. You're going to have to buy several different Casios. This yellow subdial here at the top, the triple yellow subdial, is currently from a Casio that is no longer being made, so I would recommend you find this on eBay. But, create saved searches on eBay. When the parts you want pop up, snag them up because they're pretty popular amongst the modding community. And once you have all your parts, just check in with this video and hopefully you can make this for yourself. Again, check the links below for more details and for current prices. But yeah, really simple mod to do. Will set your watch apart. It just really gives it a very, stealthy militaristic vibe, which I kind of think is really, really cool for this particular type of Casio World Time. All right, guys, any comments or questions, please put them down below. And as always, have fun, and I'll see you guys on the next one.